I've learned that there's never a perfect moment. So let me say, I'm setting the stage. I tell folks I was a poor, broke law student, didn't have a full-time job. Probably I was teaching, so I wasn't making prior to law school. So I wasn't, independently wealthy or anything along those lines. Um, and I decided to step out on faith, and I challenged at the time somebody that was a 20-year political incumbent. They
Hmm.
had, they had been serving in the community in other capacities for 30 years. Somebody again that was just very, very well known. Somebody that was yeah, just a well known person. And when I got into the race, I was undoubtedly the underdog. Obviously, folks knew me from my time in the local and state NAACP. People knew me from Winthrop, but just by and large, I wasn't a household name. And so, again, taking those organizing skills that I learned at an early age, we got out there, we knocked on a whole lot of doors. When I say a whole lot of doors, I'm talking about thousands of doors. Uh, Kissed a lot of babies, hugged a lot of folks. This is pre-COVID, obviously, and just really
Yeah.
hit the pavement hard. In addition to that, we had a grassroots army of supporters who contributed $5 donations, $20 donations, $30 donations, and those, some folks, contribute. A lot of folks can. Some folks contributed more, but if I can recall correctly, hundreds of folks contributed small dollar donations. And so when I see folks now, I'm like, yeah, you gave to my campaign almost 4 years ago. And I appreciate that, and they're like blown away that I remember who gave. And I remember those things because I know that people were, probably, didn't have a lot to give, but it meant so much to me that they gave what they had because they believed in what I was trying to do. And so
Hmm.
we ended up raising over $50,000, which is huge for, again, somebody in law school, no full-time job, never run for office before. And not only did we, raise a lot of money, which enabled us to compete with a 20-year and political incumbent, we also were in a four-way race, and the incumbent during the primary edged us out by 7 votes. 7 votes. So I tell folks this often: had that been the end of the story for this election, that would have been devastating because
Right.
I would have been in my mind, I would have been thinking, how could I have convinced 8 more people to vote for me and not the incumbent? What could we have done differently? But here in South Carolina, because nobody in that race got 50 plus one or 51% of the vote, we automatically had to go into a runoff. Ended up getting into a runoff and ended up
Right.
winning by 70% with 70% of the vote. So when people say that their vote doesn't matter, I oftentimes point to that story because, again, had that been the end of the race during that primary when my opponent had 7 more votes than I did, then I would have gone home and licked my wounds and said maybe I'll try again next time. But because of the system in place, it enabled me to really just get back out there even harder and spend the next 2 weeks during the runoff and win big.